Welcome to another episode of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement. I'm here at the News Forum, where all voices matter. It's my pleasure to welcome back Thomas Caldwell. He is the founder and chairman of Caldwell Securities Ltd in Toronto, a regular guest, and we always appreciate it. Tom, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tony.
I guess since the last time we talked, President Trump made it official that he wasn't extending the Cusma or Usmca, the trade deal between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico, I suppose. Any thoughts on that as we move towards this period where we have a deal, but it has to be renewed every year and this kind of stuff?
Well, it's kind of interesting, you really his thinking. He's like a will o' the wisp. It can go anywhere, it can be anywhere, and it depends on the day, kind of thing. Here's my guess, and let me underline that word guess as opposed to
Sure.
solid opinion. I think we're just going to go on for a period of time. I don't think he's even going to address it for a while because he's trying to find a way to structure a win for himself. And right now, he's got himself a little bit concerned with obviously Iran, and so I'm inclined to think he's not going to do anything. He always comes into discussions with the threat, the intimidation, the insults, just bashing before he comes through the door. So
Mm.
you're happy if you get anything out of this exercise. But my sense is that he hasn't figured out quite how to do this because Cusma is a very complex deal. As he described it when he negotiated in his first term, it's the greatest trade deal ever done in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Um, and so he's had a change of heart over the last little while. And America tends to do this. If you're beating them at a game, you must be cheating. But I'm kind of think he's just going to let it go for a while, and just we'll get back at it a month, 2 months, 6 months from now. I don't know. I think he's just going to let it float for the time being.
But I guess my question is also how much economic uncertainty does that create for Canada, or doesn't it? I don't know.
I think we can alleviate the uncertainty by working on the basis that we're going to get nothing out of this. He has a bigger goal, and his goal, after Greenland and Cuba, is the Canadian Arctic and Canada. It's still on his agenda. Make no mistake about this. Not that he's going to move an army here or bomb us, but if he can make things difficult economically for Canada, so that it looks a lot more attractive to join the U.S., he will do that. He is amoral. His sister's already described him that. He's an amoral person.
Mhm.
But I think he's achieving his goal anyway by just leaving it lingering there. It creates a degree of uncertainty in that supplies and business is conducted. But no major company is going to consider a significant manufacturing investment in Canada while this uncertainty. So it's achieving his goal anyway. That's notwithstanding the data center that's being planned
Right.
for Alberta. That's a little
For
bit
Alberta.
different thing. So it
Yeah.
freezes U.S. investment in Canadian manufacturing enterprises, and that's one of his goals. So I think it achieves his end for the time being, and
Mm.
he's going to let it sort of float for a while. Same as the Iranian deal. He's going to let it float for a while because he can't see a conclusion here.
But despite all that, we had some relatively good jobs numbers in May. I guess it was an increase of 77,000 or so. Does that indicate to you that the economy is still on firm footing?
I have a high degree of cynicism of all numbers, whether it be inflation, jobs, and economic growth coming out of the government.
Mhm.
These are massaged, and I know some of the techniques that they use in this thing. I don't see a breakdown of that job number. I don't know what is it. What is government? What is people withdrawing? What people withdrawing from the workforce? It can be immigrants coming into the country. It can be so many variables in that. It's the trend, and like it or not, I go with real numbers on the ground. I talked to an immigration lawyer who says he processes approximately 600 emigration, that is moving out of Canada, applicants toward the United States every
Mhm.
month.
Every
We have
month.
lost every month, and that's several a day, obviously, many a day. Also, the government's own statistics, about 160,000 people left Canada last year. And these are people with educations, qualifications, skills and ambition. The ones we're losing versus the ones we have coming in, who might be immigrants, again, unskilled at some level, but
Right.
this changeover in population is already occurring. And you can put out any numbers you want, but those are those are real numbers,
Those are real
real
numbers.
decisions. Yeah. And those
Tom,
are
we're
the
going to
things
take
I,
a, yeah, no, I appreciate that. And that makes total sense to me. We're going to take a brief break, however, and we'll be back after these messages. Welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, having my conversation with Thomas Caldwell. He is, of course, the chairman of Caldwell Securities Ltd in Toronto. Tom, can we talk about this pipeline announcement a little bit? Because there's several things that I find a bit curious. That this is the one announced by the Prime Minister along with Premier Danielle Smith of Alberta. First of all, what was your reaction to that announcement?
well, twofold. My first reaction is I think on balance, it's probably a good thing to do because, as you know, the state of Michigan, not on their own volition, have made threats about cutting off that pipeline that goes across at Sarnia that feeds literally all of our refining capacity in Sarnia, petrochemical industry, etc. So that's like a U.S. shot across our bow that they can cut that off at any time. And that whole industry in that town is destroyed because you don't have feedstock. So they've already indicated a willingness to choke us off there. So I think it's good that we build this pipeline. As you see, it loops right across north of Superior, which is very difficult engineering country because you're dealing in muskeg and everything. I've spent a lot of time in the bush, and if you stand too long, you just slowly sink into the sunset. So I think it's something that we really do have to consider from a quote national security basis. Um, the other thing is, if you take a look at it, it doesn't go to or across Quebec. That is Canada's big issue. We got to bring Quebec on board. Are you part of this country or not? And we have to get pipelines across Quebec to get our petrochemical product across Quebec into the Maritimes for export to Europe. We can't shove everything out over the Trans Mountain and out to Asia. Now we can do that and do very well at it, but this is something that was glaring when you see the thing. It's good from security, but it doesn't bind the country together. I don't know. The third item of it, which is kind of interesting, is that there's been no private money coming up for it yet. Now there will be at some juncture. The challenge with private money coming into big projects in Canada is you have Indigenous veto of anything outside of a city limit. Now it's gone inside, including Richmond, DC. So, you got to sort this out. We're a country or we're not a country. We can't have special interest groups or special victim interest groups, just continually vetoing stuff. We got to build stuff, get on with it. We can't play that tune anymore because we are and have fallen behind. So the three things are, I think it's necessary. The fact that it ends in Ontario, not in across and into the Maritimes. And the third is that no private money will come up to this. I mean, it's like the Ring of Fire. It was discovered by a small Canadian company, and they lost it, a BHP built it and walked away with it because of continual objection on pseudo environmental issues, which are really just blackmail for protection money. And so you're seeing this across the country. So that's an issue that has to be addressed before foreign investors will come in. And foreign investors won't come in until Canadian investors come in. And Canadian investors aren't coming in.
Yeah, so I mean that's true of the Western Pipeline. It's true of this Eastern Pipeline and Ring of Fire, as you mentioned. So, is it all going to be government money? Is that what's happening right now?
No, it's all going to be your money, Tony.
Okay,
and
yeah. I
your
don't know
and
if
your and your
I don't
kids' money.
I don't know if I have 20 billion to spare, Tom. I don't know. Yeah,
Well,
that's the issue.
but I don't know where else the money has to come from government sources or Canada Pension Plan, but they've got to make a good business case. And the best business case Canada can make on any big project is regulatory certainty.
Right.
What's the time frame? Remember, Trans Mountain was supposed to cost $9 billion. By the time they got through indigenous objections, some of which was felt that was supported by U.S. oil interests, it cost $39 billion at the end of the day, just because of these delays. So no proper business, pipeline business or anything, is going to put money into a thing where you just don't know how it's going to work out. So I think that's the issue at hand.
Yeah, no, I hear you loud and clear. And obviously, we're going to be watching this one closely because, as you put it, it's there is a lot of taxpayer dollars that are on the line here. So
It's a
we,
metaphor for Canada to some degree, Rick.
yeah, it is, isn't it?
Are we going to finally sort out these issues or not? And I think
Yeah.
that'll be a big because if we can get over these humps, if you will, Canada's going to be an incredible place to invest money. But
Mhm.
we gotta, I think, behave a little bit more like a country. That we're all in this together. Let's go build a great country here, or build a greater country company.
Tom, we're going to come back to these issues. We'll take a brief break. We'll be back after these messages. And we're back here at Boom and Bust. My guest is Thomas Caldwell. He is the chairman of Caldwell Securities Ltd in Toronto. Tom, just want to talk a little bit about some of these other issues that are affecting the country. I noticed that the Canadian dollar vis-a-vis the United States dollar is like close to below 70 cents, which is usually it sets off alarm bells with people when it's below 70. Are you watching the Canadian dollar at all?
Yes. There's a lot going on. Our dollar's been under pressure for quite a while vis-a-vis the US dollar, but that's not the big damage. The big damage is the US dollar has come down dramatically against a whole bunch of other currencies. So we may think we're not doing that badly when in actual fact, on a world basis, we're doing quite poorly. This does help Canadian companies that have their costs in Canadian dollars and sell their products in US dollars, such as resource companies. So it is a positive from that point of view. Our trade, we have a trade surplus just this month. And again, that is due to the much hated petrochemical industry, the
Right,
oil
right.
and gas business, which is really kind of interesting to see. I do think that as we go on here, our dollar may come under pressure because of Cusma, but the real statement of feeling these days, it's really coming more because of interest rate differential. That
Ah,
the world seems to think, well, Canada's probably going to survive through all this Kuzma razzle dazzle. Its debt structure, like it or not, is a little bit better than the States. That's like a who's the least bad. It does have potential if they get their ducks in a row and act like grown-ups. So really, it's the interest rate, it's the high velocity money that's going. I can get a bit more on a U.S. rate or whatever, but and there's a different dynamic with interest rates. The U.S. economy is still quite strong, and with inflation, and if they up their rates and that differential widens, our dollar will get weaker. Or if we cut our rates to try to get the economy going, which I don't think
right.
is necessarily a good policy because our economy not going has nothing to do with interest rates.
Hmm.
So if we widen that, then that dollar could definitely get under 70 cents. I think our Trudeau the first dollar was at 65 cents. It went up to about 103, 104 US, and then it came down during Trudeau the second to close to into the low 70s. So
Hmm.
I think we could easily see ourselves looking at mid to high 60 cents if that differential in interest rates gets much
Right,
greater.
right. And just give us your take on the stock market these days. What's going on out there?
Well, I'm an incurable optimist, as I've probably mentioned to you.
Yeah, yeah.
The US economy is doing extremely well. There's a lot of money floating around. People are putting money into the US economy, US equities as well, as a safe haven, because you've got a lunatic running around threatening everybody else in the world. You want to get inside the wire there and be invested in America, which is doing quite well.
Hmm.
Um, our our market is a totally different market. We have shoveled the innovators out of this country, the entrepreneurs, everything. So ours is a resource-driven stock market,
Right,
and
right.
the Canadian banks have always been a protected species. They do well no matter what is going on. So the Canadian banks are all powerful in our market, and the resource industry is benefiting because the world wants what we do. But our economy as an overall economy has not progressed much from Sir Wilfrid Laurier's time. We've broadened out for a period, and now we've narrowed in terms of a manufacturing base. So I do think the Canadian stock market will do well because it's basically, we used to say grease and rocks and banks. And then that's basically what it is. So those are areas that are doing well in the world sense. So the economy is the Canadian stock market is a bit disconnected from the economy.
Right. But we have our own strengths, is what you're saying, but it's not the same
Absolutely.
as the, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
We have the genesis, the basis of an incredible country if we can just get it halfway right. It's just sitting there waiting for us to capitalize on. And the world is waiting for us to get it right so they can join in.
Indeed, indeed. We're having our discussion with Thomas Caldwell. He is chairman of Caldwell Securities Ltd. In Toronto. We're going to take another brief commercial break. Still lots more to discuss. Stay with us. We'll be back after these messages. And welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, having a conversation with Thomas Caldwell. He is the chairman, Caldwell Securities Ltd. In Toronto. Tom, I wanted to come back to City of Toronto. Sometimes we talk about Toronto specifically.
My favorite topic.
Yeah, it's always a unquenchable thirst for that one. Is Toronto still a good place to invest, do you think?
Well, it's really a generic thing. To invest in what, I think, would be the question.
Right.
The condo market is really suffering terribly, which is maybe that's a good thing, that prices are coming down. That it's a greater opportunity for people to buy a home of some sort, if you will. So I think the decline in prices here is overall, we've overbuilt in that area. And also what is also happening is there may not be the jobs to support that condo base. I don't know the numbers on that yet, but the government in Toronto seems to miss the issue. For example, we're building this something $8 or $9 billion worth of public housing between the feds and the province and the city, which is a great government project for governments. They love it. It's a chest thumper. Look at what we've done for the people. We do not have a housing crisis. We have a mental health crisis. We have a substance abuse crisis. Maybe it'd be good if they peeled off $1 million or $2 million out of that and addressed the real problem of people on our streets. And it's unfair to have people with mental problems or even substance abuse problems to just leave them to be on the streets. It does not help a city. Yeah, we cleaned it up for FIFA, but I think it's still the old government policy of spend money, go into debt, borrow, and build government impressive projects that people can attach their name to, as opposed to dealing with the issues at hand. So is it a good place to invest? Eventually everything is after you go a cycle. But let me put it this way. It's like businesses. I always keep saying it's not what you got. It's what are you going to do with what you got? And that comes down to management. And as far as Toronto goes, before I would say an investor in Toronto, I would want to see a change in management.
Right. So that goes to the elections taking place in October, perhaps, maybe a shift in direction. Yeah, I mean, maybe it means that we can attract a new investment in the future. That's what you're hoping for.
Something like that. But the populist movement is quite organized, and they continually can put in their candidates that are somewhat disconnected from real economic growth, as opposed to the appearance of going to every street fair and saying how well we're doing.
I mean, this is your point that you've made even in full page ads in the past, Tom, that we need leaders who understand the economy and understand investment and understand jobs and growth, and have some economic understanding rather than just how to be a politician.
Absolutely. I've got a mechanic I go to that fixes my car just off Vaughan Road, and he has a picture up there of his tax assessments over the last 5 years and how significant they've grown. There's a little business, a guy fixes cars, for Pete's sake, and he's getting starved out with taxes. And so they think nothing of debt, they think nothing of taxes. And it sounds like a terrible thing. It's like universal suffrage. When I was a kid growing up, you did not have a vote in a municipal election unless you owned property in the city.
Yeah.
And you had some skin in the game. But now you have so many people without skin in the game and with every manner of rights and privileges that they think are indeed rights. So the world has changed, and it's pretty hard to shove that group to the side and to convince them that economic growth, if we have enough of that, we can do all the things we need to do to help people. But otherwise, we're just dividing a static, or small or diminishing pie to divide up. And that means you put too much onus on the people who are the wealth creators and the job creators.
We don't have too much time left, but is there Canadian cities that do impress you, whether it's Calgary or Montreal or Halifax?
I don't know enough about all of them, but I have a sense, this sounds like a terrible thing to say. I don't think municipal politics particularly attracts the best and brightest in our society.
Okay, well,
That's
I'll
probably
leave it at
made
that.
that's made enemies of everybody, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Making friends wherever we go. Tom, I think that's all we have the time for today. It's great having you on. You always have an interesting
It's probably
perspective on
enough for
things.
today, Tony.
Yeah, on that happy note. We'll see you next time. Thanks again for
All the
joining us.
best, mate. Stay well.
Bye. That was, of course, Thomas Caldwell of Caldwell Securities Ltd. in Toronto. Always interesting take on things, quite unique. Glad you were able to watch. We'll see you next time.